Good afternoon, one and all, and welcome to Unity Church-Unitarian. I am Reverend Kathleen Rolenz, and I'm serving as Unity Church's interim senior minister. Our Minister of Congregational Care, Reverend Laura Cowton, who was scheduled to officiate at this service, was taken ill this week and was unable to do the service. She sends her deep regrets, and she is well on the road to recovery. I bid you all welcome, virtually, those of you watching us online, and of course all of you here in person, as we gather to celebrate and to mourn the life of Margaret Jane Evans. We gather together to mourn, to celebrate, and of course to say goodbye. And following our service, you are invited to gather in our parish hall through these doors or through the back for a reception with Jane's family and friends. We welcome you to this time and this sacred place where sorrow and joy, memory and hope join to create a living memory of Jane, whose presence in this life brought spirit and sustenance to so many. Today, you join in the ancient tradition of celebrating a life well lived in song and story, that the gift of this occasion will itself become a source of sustenance for those who live to remember. We are mindful that many faith traditions inform our individual journeys, and we hold in gratitude the foundations of love and service that those traditions hold in common. In our faith tradition of Unitarian Universalism, we light a chalice that transforms wax or oil into pure light and warmth to remind us of our own living and the ways in which we transform the stuff of this world into the love and activity of our days. We kindle a flame to mark time as holy. For when a life is born and when a life is completed, that is indeed holy time. So as we remember Jane, may we today bring forth transformation in ourselves, from grief to healing, from memory, wholeness, from celebration and love. For in the presence of life, we say no to death, and in the presence of death, we must say yes to life. One of the hymns that is treasured in Unitarian Universalism, it's not widely known outside this faith tradition, but it's one that I'm sure Jane has probably sung a time or two. It's found number 123 in your hymnals. It's called Spirit of Life, and we're going to sing it twice through. So please rise as willing and able, and let's join together in singing this hymn. A responsive reading is found in your order of service. It's called a litany of remembrance, and your part is simply, we remember them. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, in the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, in the opening of buds and in the rebirth of spring, in the blueness of the sky and in the warmth of summer, in the rustling of leaves and in the beauty of autumn, in the beginning of the year and when it ends, when we are weary and in need of strength, when we are lost and sick at heart, when we have joys we yearn to share. So long as we live, they too shall live, for they are now a part of us. We come together in community and to acknowledge our individual and collective grief, to share what has gone from our lives because Jane has died, and also what is in our lives because she has lived. So as we reflect on the complications about grief, we encourage you to feel your grief. Don't hold back tears if they come. They are the rain of your friendship, the salt of your love. Do not hold back your smiles or laughter if they come. They are expressions of the joy of your friendship, the sweetness of your love. Because before the wonder of living and dying, we are all humbled. And in the midst of our sorrow and grief, we also feel a sacred connection. And out of our memories and our affections flows a thanksgiving. And in our gathering together, in our compassion and our love for one another and for that which we have lost, healing begins. So I invite you now just to take a moment of silence together for your own prayer, reflection, meditation, to gather your individual thoughts and feelings, to recall and to remember the person that Jane was and how she touched your life as we prepare to say a final farewell. Let's just sit together for a time of silence.
A reading from the book of Ecclesiastes. There is an appointed time for everything, and a time for every affair under the heavens. A time to give birth, and a time to die. A time to plant, and a time to uproot the plant. A time to kill, and a time to heal. A time to tear down, and a time to build. A time to weep, and a time to laugh. A time to mourn, and a time to dance. There's a time to scatter stones, and a time to gather them. A time to embrace, and a time to be far from embraces. A time to seek, and a time to lose. A time to keep, and a time to cast away. A time to mend, and a time to sow. A time to be silent, and a time to speak. A time to love, and a time to hate. A time of war, and a time of peace.
Each life is like a multifaceted diamond. Each life shines and reflects many different stories. Unity Church-Unitarian has a tradition of offering what we call collage of voices, and we invite those who have memories of Jane to write a paragraph to share in today's service, and in so doing, illuminate the many facets of her rich and diverse life. In some cases, we needed to edit these submissions for clarity or length, but the spirit of Jane's life will shine through. And so I'm sharing this collage of voices with Jane's good friend, Jan. I begin with a reflection from her cousin, Sue Brady. My first memories of Jane was how she always identified herself when she called by saying, "Sue, Cousin Jane here," as though that exuberant voice could belong to anyone else. When Kevin and I moved to the cities, we began a tradition of Thanksgiving dinner at our house with family. Jane always arrived with a dish from a new recipe she found. She never came for a meal without a gift for us, her big smile, lots of laughter. Throughout the years, we enjoyed meeting her for breakfast, road trips, art fairs, concerts. Memories of her adventurous spirit, warm heart, and love will remain with us always. And this is from Amanda Davidson. My favorite thing about Jane was her positive disposition and young spirit. I have many fond memories of celebrating birthdays with her and my mom. Just a few years ago, the three of us went ziplining. Jane was always up for a fun activity and made each occasion memorable. She is deeply missed and loved by those who knew her. I'm glad I was lucky enough to have known her. And this from Melanie Forner about her Aunt Jane. When I was a little girl, I would have the privilege of being able to spend a weekend with Aunt Jane whenever I wanted. Our weekends consisted of roller skating around the lakes, going out to dinner with her friends, seeing movies, swimming, shopping, going to church. We would also give each other back rubs and do each other's hair. I thoroughly enjoyed the undivided attention she gave me, and I will never forget how special she made me feel when I got to spend time with her. As adults, we continued to have our sleepovers, and I always received her undivided attention during our time together. Aunt Jane taught me so many things, from learning how to make a turkey for Thanksgiving, to gardening, to entertaining, and, oh yes, my first and only ride in a police car. Although Aunt Jane was a very smart and educated woman, she sometimes believed that rules did not apply to her. That is how we ended up in a police car at the state fair. I want to hear more about that story. She always believed in me when others did not. She encouraged me to believe in myself, to go after what I wanted. I truly believe that I got as far as I did with my college education because of her encouragement and wanting to walk in her footsteps. She was my biggest cheerleader and my biggest fan. The summer of 2022 was the most horrific summer of my life. With debilitating migraine headaches and an onset of intense anxiety, she stood by me every single day. She answered every call I made to her, listened as I cried, and poured out my soul to her and told me that she knew I would get through it. She encouraged me to seek treatment for my anxiety and commended me for every step forward that I took. She was right. I did get through it, even though I could not see it. I will never forget her love for me and for my family. And this one from Margot Coyle. I met Jane sometime in the 90s when we started playing bridge together and really loved her right out of the gate. She had so many interesting stories and experience to share, and that was before she joined the Peace Corps in her 50s. She was the coolest person I knew. Jane was reliably honest and forthright. She had a gift for telling you the truth you needed to hear without making you feel bad. She was supportive and generous and kind and loving, and everyone in her circle felt special. For myself, I was proud and grateful to know her.
Just in case. So this one is from Dick Plummer, who's actually my brother. Jane was an awesome person who he will always remember as someone who always had a smile on her face and that she had a good sense of humor. Jane was a very caring person and will be greatly missed but never forgotten. The next one is from Chris Gibbons, who also went to law school with us, including the summer, at least one summer that we went to law school in Cambridge, England. This is from Chris. I met Jane years ago when she, Jan Plummer Davidson, and I attended law school for the summer in Cambridge, England. The three of us enjoyed stopping at bakeries for fresh scones, visiting pubs, shopping for shoes, and sightseeing on weekends, including traveling to Scotland and to Wales. Jane, with her endearing personality, bright blue eyes, and easygoing smile, was always the first one to engage us in interesting conversations with the locals. In fact, while stopping at a pub in Wales, Jane, of course, started up a conversation with the local men about their sheep of all things, and then with two ladies who had just returned to Wales from a hairstylist conference in Las Vegas. Over the years, it was fun to catch up and reminisce about our UK adventures. Jane was a very special person and will be dearly missed. So this one's from me. I met Jane August, September of 1983, so 40 years ago, when we were both starting law school at William Mitchell. We had plenty of time to meet almost every day for breakfast, lunch, and occasionally for dinner. Jane and I went to summer school at Cambridge University in England, both the summer of '84 at Emmanuel College and the summer of '85 at Downing College. We both managed to fit in traveling before summer school started each year, and then taking weekend trips during summer school, while also somehow passing the classes that we took those summers. While we were in England, we shopped at 250,000 antique stores, street fairs, stores, etc., and had many to laugh about all the items that we brought home. We finished law school in '86, and along with our friend group from law school, probably attended our fair share of parties, enjoyed music, plenty of laughter, and of course, lots of food. When you think of Jane, you should think visiting with people, eating, drinking coffee, socializing, shopping, and more socializing. Jane was equally capable of being serious and of being silly. For 40 years, we did a variety of fun things, but also had time for serious discussions. One such discussion led to me telling Jane that if I ever were to get married, she was going to be my flower girl. The picture of my wedding is on the back of your program with her as the flower girl. I sure wish I could tell her some of the fun things that I wrote about and thought about in putting this together, but I don't, and I miss her every day. The next one is from Bill Davies. Bill, a friend of mine. Jane's legacy was one of caring, and in the bustle world of self-importance, Jane was different. She took time to smell the roses, so to speak. She was a good friend to her circle of friends, keeping close to several over the decades. She cared for them like she cared for her garden, and she attended to at her apartment for many, many years. Near the end, her quick wit and spry sense of humor overshadowed the pain that she must have felt, but kept inside. Anyone who met and knew Jane had a better life because of it. Jane was humbling, loving, and caring. Be well, our angel. And the last one is from Patty Regenball. Jane was the flower girl in my sister's wedding back in '95. It meant the world to Jane that her best friend forever would be there for her on her special day. Jane was so nice and funny. I also heard many stories about their many lunches, trips, and law school shenanigans. She will always be remembered with a smile.
As I mentioned earlier, Reverend Laura Cowton, who met with the family and took many notes about Jane's life, was unable to be here in today's service. However, through talking with her and reading your collage of voices, I felt as if I knew her, could at least discern her spirit. Because the particulars of a person's life are, of course, unique, but there is also a person's essence that shines through, a consistent thread that weaves in and out of those particulars as people tell the stories of the one whom they love. And one of those threads that I saw shining clearly through was a person who delighted in life and took great joy in it. And in turn, those who knew and loved her took great joy in her. The details of her life can be found in the obituary, which is in your order of service. But what that obituary can't tell you, what Jane could tell us if she were here with us today, are some of the reasons for the decisions that she made and the courage that it took to make some of those decisions. I thought about her becoming a nurse and then owning and operating her own dry cleaning plant, and then after that attending law school and then working as an executive for Marriott. Major career moves. I was just marveling at the moxie, the persistence that it took for a woman to take up these kind of significant careers throughout her life. And then in her middle to late 50s, at a time when many of us might want to settle into stability and comfort, Jane joins the Peace Corps in Lithuania. And again, you have to marvel at the idea of a mid-career woman spending 2 years in a foreign country, not knowing the language, but knowing Jane, making lifelong friends. So when we think about Jane's life, what is clear is that she knew how to be a dear friend to all who knew her, and a beloved aunt to her nieces and nephews and great-nephews. She was a helper, lending a hand, surprising people with gifts that she knew they would love. Those gifts, of course, gave her an excuse to shop at some of her favorite haunts like TJ Maxx, trying to find just the right thing. She could be found with a good cup of coffee in one hand and probably stroking the back of one of her 6 cats in the other. So I think this line in her obituary sums up her life well. Jane had a laugh that would bring a smile to your face and a hug that showed how much she cared about you. So let's continue to hold that laugh and that smile and that hug in blessed memory. As we sing together a closing hymn, number 108, called My Life Flows On in Endless Song. Be seated. We have heard about Jane's life, her passion, her commitments, her love of family and friends, and her animal companions. It is now our task to turn once again to our own lives and make of them a testament to the love and learnings and joy that Jane brought to hers. And we turn now to Jane to offer our final benediction. May the universe receive and hold you. May you be whole and at peace. Those who love you and mourn for you will know you always in their learning and teaching, their building of communities, their exploring and adventuring, their living life to the fullest, regardless of the challenges that threaten to slow us down, and the joys of creating and reading and collecting and priceless relationships. So though we extinguish this flame, we know that the spark of life still burns within each of us, and we know that the light of Jane's life still shines within our hearts. In the spirit of love, we have gathered. In the spirit of love, we depart. Gentle people, go in peace this day. Amen.